Hi, this is Carol Dickerson. I'm at home in my home studio, which is in our basement. The show is hanging at Kreuzer Gallery on Boulder Street in Colorado Springs. And I just thought I'd give you a peek at my studio. This wall has bolts all over it, so I can paint on the wall. I just pop the panels up there and work on them. And I like to work flat too, so sometimes I grab them off the wall and put them on a table in my studio. This was converted from half of our garage, so we put a couple of windows in to give me a little sunlight when the weather's nice. And if we're lucky today, we might see a fox or some wild turkeys or some deer walk by as we're talking. It's one of the wonderful things about living on the west side of Colorado Springs. So I'm here with Joseph Liberty, my husband. He's shooting the video, and we were talking about the show back in December because Abby had asked for a title and a description of the show, and I brought a bunch of my finished paintings up to the living room, and we were trying to come up with a name for the show. And one of the comments Joseph made at the time was that he thought that the paintings were brave. And so I was thinking about that later, still trying to come up with a name for the show. And I thought of the word Moxie, which to me meant a certain kind of bravery that has a feminine, sassy bit about it. So that's where the name originally came from, Moxie, and then Abby did these wonderful postcards for us. A few weeks before the show was to start, I was visiting some friends of mine at the library where I used to work. So I was talking with Jessie Randall and Amy Brooks, and we were talking about the show, and Jessie said, Moxie is also the name of a soda that's popular in in New England. So being librarians, we looked it up, and indeed it is an old-fashioned kind of soda, and that's where the word came from, because when it was introduced, it was a patent medicine. And so among the qualities of this patent medicine when it was introduced in 1876 was that it was claimed to be effective against paralysis, nervousness, insomnia, and my favorite, softening of the brain. So that made it seem like an even better name for the show. It contains an extract of gentian root and is still made by Coca-Cola. So I ordered some to have at the Artist Talk, and since we are doing this virtually, you'll have to experiment with me when I have my first taste of Moxie Soda. So, got some ice, and I've got some chilled Moxie here. See, it comes in a nice orange can, and we're going to see what it tastes like. Do you want to taste, Joseph?
No, thank you.
I'm not a soda drinker, but we'll see. But it's nice and fizzy. Okay, here it goes. Tastes like root beer, but a little bit more bitter. Not bad, actually. To your health. I actually found a reference to Moxie in an Olive Kittredge novel I was reading recently, so I guess it really is a thing in the Northeast. So, talking about this show, one of the challenges to me of abstract painting is to do what they call develop a visual vocabulary And since I've been doing this work, I've been struggling to understand what that really means for me. And I think that some of my paintings come together in a way that illustrates that concept, but I still struggled with it. And one of the things that happens to me is I start a painting, and at some point I'll just get lost in it. I don't know what I'm doing or where to take it next. And piece of advice that's often given to painters is just to make a move on the painting, make some kind of mark, and then respond to that. And sometimes that works really well, but often it doesn't, and I feel like I've just made a bigger mess and I've dug myself into a hole. So I participate in a online community called Art to Life by Nicholas Wilton. And they have a number of free programs, and they also have some paid membership programs. And as part of Art to Life's program, this January, they offered a thing called a challenge and invited everybody in the community to participate. And the challenge was to try to develop a visual vocabulary for a particular feeling that we wanted to show in our paintings. And so this really caught my interest, and I decided to just follow the program. The word I decided to explore was whimsical. I don't want all my paintings to feel whimsical, but sometimes I do, and trying to figure out how one makes a painting whimsical when it's all abstract, when there's no identifiable objects, is really challenging. So I decided to explore that. And you know, I know how to make things that are not abstract whimsical. Here's one of a series of animal drawings I did a long time ago with a rather whimsical little bear, and I use this as my identifiers in a lot of web work I do now. But trying to figure out how to do it with totally abstract work was really challenging to me. So I also looked at the work of several artists that I'm familiar with. I looked at the work of Miro. Miro's work often has these kind of squiggly figures and things that aren't quite figures, with funny little eyelashes and stuff like that on them. There's fish-like shapes and bird-like shapes in his drawings, so I looked at that. I also looked at work of Kandinsky. Kandinsky, you know, has these wonderful, also kind of bird-like figures in some of his paintings. He has these unexpected shapes and diagonals, and he has a skewed perspectives. He has patterns and kind of primary colors that you don't expect. So I looked at those as well. I've also looked at work of Matisse, you know, when he was doing his paper cutouts, and he has these playful, squiggly shapes that he worked with when he was going blind and all he could do was cut paper. And then I also looked at Milton Avery, who's, some of his some of his works are realistic, but he uses very unexpected colors and forms in his